of the Saturday morning, everybody. Welcome to The Sweat, a program we bring you here on DraftKings Network and VSiN and 108 radio stations around the country every Saturday and Sunday morning from 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock Eastern Time. I'm your host, Emerson Latzia, sitting alongside Julian Edlow, and back finally after 3 weeks in Las Vegas following the Super Bowl, Mr. Steve Buchanan.
You know what the funny thing is that everybody kept harping on when I was gone and my notable absence. When like Julian is gone or you're gone, no one seems to notice. And the show just goes on as normal.
I don't know. I've been told by higher-ups last week when it was Jules and I on this desk, some of the best shows we've had since this show was launched back in August. And I'm glad
Maybe
you are
the best
back.
shows of that weekend.
Remember, one of our hardcore and die-hard Sweat viewers made you a friendship bracelet that says Windy Unders on it from the Super Bowl.
Okay, well,
so it is great to have you here, and now that you can wear
This is how you wear it?
Awesome stuff, Steve. What else is awesome is what we'll be talking about coming up in this show. Attention shoppers, clean up on aisle baseball. Steve's going to help us rip through all the MLB markets, open and ready for you to shop on the DK Sportsbook. How about the month of March? Yeah, we're officially inside you, March. Jules is going to tackle best bets on the second to last weekend of the regular season. And World Series champion, the newest member of the baseball media, Eric Hosmer, will join us live to preview the season ahead. Super agent Scott Boras, who he is a client of, another one of Boris's clients, signing late last night, Matt Chapman.
That's right.
So more of them, the dominoes falling, and also how much Eric loves the new see-through pants in baseball.
That's the real story in baseball
That
this
is
year.
the real story. That's what I want to lead with, but producer Drew says put it at the back end of the interview. Anywho, let's start the same way we do this show mostly every weekend. That's working up a sweat. So Steve, I'm going to let you go first here. So we're talking maybe a bet you're warming up to. Could be a storyline, could be anything out there that you believe our viewers need to be aware of. What are you going to deliver?
Well, obviously, we're going to be getting into baseball more as we get closer and closer. I mean, opening day is technically 18 days away, even though after we play 2 games in Korea, we just move on for like a week, go back to spring training, and then start the season over
bizarre.
again. It's a little strange, kind of weird. Not necessary, but you know what? I don't make the decisions over there. These guys can't even get the pants right. That being said, I think there's still some really good value here when you're looking at some divisional winners or some of the other things too, because there's still a lot of like big dominoes that have yet to fall in MLB right now. There's still some major free agents out there that could potentially change how the odds are on some of these division winners or how some of the odds look on some of these win totals. Like we're still waiting for Blake Snell to sign. We're still waiting for Jordan Montgomery to sign, JD Martinez, Adam Duvall. Like there's some actual legit difference makers out there. But if there's one division I want to focus on where I think there is some value to be had, it's that National League Central. I am so baffled, confused, any word you want to use here as Pike is dropping stuff off screen. All of like these teams just all kind of bunched together, and the Cardinals are tied with the Cubs for the best odds to win this division. I am really struggling to figure out where we think this Cardinals team is going to succeed, especially coming off that year that just had last year where they were, expected to be the division winner, and then instead they ended up being not just the last place teams, but one of the worst teams in the National League. Their answer to that horrible year that they had last year, they went out on an offseason and they revamp their rotation and bring in guys like Kyle Gibson and Lance Lynn. Those are going to be the guys that they want to fix this rotation. Now, to be fair, they brought in somebody like Sonny Gray, who, to be fair, was one of the better free agents on the market. But after that, it is just bleeding after bleeding of what's going to come after Sonny Gray in this division here. So it baffles me that the Cardinals are tied with the Cubs to lead to win the division here at plus 185, whereas I'm looking at a team like the Reds at plus 340. Went out there and made some nice additions to the team. Their infield, their offense, I should say, has legitimately 5 or 6 guys that can hit over 20 home runs in that offense this year. We have a full year of Ellie De La Cruz, what he does here. Frankie Montas in that rotation there. Nick Martinez in that pitching rotation as well. I really like the Reds here. I'm surprised that the odds are set as they are with the Cardinals and Cubs tied atop to win the division. Give me the Reds here at plus 340. That's a division I really feel strongly about.
And St. Louis was the preseason favorite last year, and I remember...
Yeah, they were horrible.
I remember throughout the regular season season early on, too, we were thinking, oh, okay, and I believe you believe this as well, we all did, that maybe the Cardinals were going to be able to turn it on midseason. Because we see those.
They started off very slow,
yeah.
and they just never, ever recovered.
Because recent history tells you the Cardinals are going to turn it on those last 2 months of the season. They've had these ridiculous win streaks. They make the postseason, go on a run, but it does feel like age kind of caught up to them and that helpless bullpen last year. Jules, what are you warming up to right now? Something in college basketball?
Let's go college hardwood. It's our first show in March, so it seems appropriate. We'll go with a little March Madness, and it's shaping up to be a really good year, but we got a couple of regular season Saturdays left in the mix, but this is a really good one. No holes in the schedule today, a lot of good games, and things get going. Last week we did that bubble segment. Things get going with a massive game on the bubble. At noon in Providence. Providence and Villanova essentially playing a tournament game, unless, if Providence were to lose this one, they could come back and maybe beat UConn to help their tournament hopes. But for all intents and purposes, March is starting off with a March Madness game. Providence and Villanova are going to play to get into the dance. That's a game that I like Providence in. And things stay strong all day, really. We got top 25 matchups all across the board. Creighton and Marquette, Baylor and Kansas. And Kansas is the team that I'm going to work up a sweat about a little bit here because they're not very good. They're a top 10 team. We saw them go down, blow a 12-point second half lead to BYU at home, lose their first home game of the season. Kevin McCullers is out for them potentially long term, and he's kind of their do-it-all wing. And while, Hunter Dickinson is great in the paint, Harris is a great veteran point guard, they don't have a ton of depth. And when you take away kind of that Swiss Army knife on the perimeter like McCullers and go to some of these guys off the bench, and they don't have many guys off the bench, and sacrifice how much thinner you get without a guy that's playing 35 minutes a game for you, now you're in trouble. And I think Kansas is in trouble long-term in the Big 12 tournament, in March Madness, and in big trouble today at Baylor, where Baylor's going to be looking for some revenge off a narrow home loss that they had at the Phog. I think that we're going to see Kansas kind of limp down the stretch here, and that's a team that I'm looking to potentially go against, and we're doing it starting right here today.
And we're going to talk a lot more college basketball coming up in this show. You're bringing a special guest on. Who is it?
Chris Thurston, CT Bets. You see him all over. He joins 98.5 The Sports Hub locally. He's of Wager Talk. He's of the Hustle podcast. Very good college hoops bettor. He's going to join us at 9 a.m. We're going to go over this Saturday slate.
Okay, I'm stoked for that. I'm also stoked for my warm-up bet.
Here we go.
Yeah, no.
I saved you some time.
This one makes a little bit of sense. I came in, I said, Jules, what do you think I should do? And Jules is like, maybe look at next team odds, but a lot of those markets are now down. Because I was like, Justin Fields kind of feeling going to the Falcons. Been more reports about that. That market's down. Falcons now the favorite to win the NFC South. And then I said, the draft's going on. You have prospects out there talking about birds being fake and recharging on power lines, guys not believing in planets and space. And that got me thinking, let's go to the two-time defending world champion Chiefs. You know where they need help? They need help at the wide receiver position. So, in the market, on DK Sportsbook, position a first drafted player in this draft for the Chiefs, the favorite, wide receiver. Don't do it, folks, because this general manager, what is it? Brett Veach has never drafted a receiver in the first round. Moore, Rice, Hardman, all second-round selections, right? There are more than enough exciting prospects who should be available at pick 64 as well. Let me just finish.
Second round picks. What if Kansas City trades back and uses their first pick on a wide receiver in the second round?
Okay, so there you go. This is why we're talking out loud here. But the reason I think you should probably go offensive line or defensive tackle, at least not, you don't have to listen to me. I wouldn't. I don't listen to me half the time either. But Veach has a history and tends to go more offensive tackle and defensive tackle with the first pick in the draft for the Chiefs. Where do they need help? Those are their two biggest needs outside of wide receiver. Also, Chris Jones, free agent, team's already franchise tagged Snead, will likely trade him if they can't get a long-term deal worked out here. So defensive tackle, offensive tackle, defensive back is where you're going to find the value in that market. I feel like it made some decent points. Would you guys like to tear me apart right now?
Well, So I made the point about it could still be that position, but it's just in the second round. You're betting on the team's first pick, but also...
Yeah, things can change, obviously. I'm just saying, as the order stacks up right now, that's probably where I'd go.
Okay,
I'd go
so
a little bit more value.
If you're also saying, though, that this GM has a history of picking these positions first,
yes.
Well, maybe that's a reason that they're going to go with another position because they've recently used high picks on these positions that you're targeting, and they need to invest in another position.
For sure. That's
thoughts.
a good. No, it's a good point. Again, it's why we're having a professional conversation. Steve, would you like to add anything to that? Is there anything in the NFL draft market right now that you'd like to add?
I mean, what you said, like what the GM has done before, is like what Pierce Dietrich does, and he just says all these things.
So I can't look at the history of a general manager and the way that he or she likes to draft, and you got to throw that out the window?
Yes, because I need to focus on what the team needs now, not what they needed in the past.
Sounds good to me. And that music.
Jaden Daniels is plus money still to be the number 2 pick. I think Jaden Daniels is going to go 2.
Thank you, my sweet chinchilla. I truly appreciate
very early
that. Okay, Jules, we're going to give you a break.
I need
When we come back, it's a race not to the finish line, but to 10 wins in Major League Baseball. Why Steve thinks Adley Rutschman and the Orioles are in a good position to be that guy. Get in, losers. We're going shopping. Welcome back to The Sweat. We're taking a trip now to the MLB market, the newest news segment here on the show. Tons of MLB markets to navigate, young Steven, on the DK Sportsbook. So today, tomorrow, and shows leading up to first pitch of the regular season, we're going to tackle this. And Steve is going to be here every step of the way to make sure you do not panic, because there are lots of choices on the DK Sportsbook. So let's start with the race here to 10 wins, young Steven. So betting the first team to hit 10 wins and hit that double-digit mark. Just first off, question, what do people really need to factor in here before betting this bet?
Yeah, so this is very important, and this is why the teams with the 2 best odds are at the top here, especially the Dodgers, who are at plus 270, which seems absurd for that to be a team to get the first 10 wins. That being said, this is because, and we kind of talked about this a little bit before the show started, at the first segment here, the Dodgers and Padres are playing way before anybody else. They're going over to Korea. They're playing this 2-game series on March 20th and 21st in Seoul, South Korea. So that is where those 2 games are going to take place. So they have a jump on everybody else. And that's why the Dodgers, who are more likely going to be favored almost throughout the season, have plus 270 to get those odds. Because the idea is here, they sweep the Padres in that first 2 games. They already have a 2-0 jump on everybody else. That's why the odds are set as they are.
Not giving a chance to the Padres at all, huh?
I mean, I'm not saying that. In an ideal world, they split this series. So then they're 1-1 apiece. No real big advantage here. But that also means that we're getting a lot better odds on some of the other teams. And that's why, we'll talk about some of that there. But when you look at this whole landscape here, everybody else in Major League Baseball is not going to start the season until the 28th of March. And that's including the Dodgers, who will be playing their 3rd game there, and they start a 4-game series against the St. Louis Cardinals. So again, the Padres and Dodgers have a 2-game jump on everybody else, and then the Dodgers go into series against the Cardinals, the Giants, and the Cubs, which to me aren't layup series. And again, we'll talk about a team who does have a layup series here. They're going up against decent teams. I don't like the Cardinals, but I do like the Giants. I do like the Cubs. Those aren't games that I feel like the Dodgers are going to go in and just completely dominate. So that's why I'm not on the Dodgers here. Gotcha. But if you do believe that jump that they're going to get over everybody else is an advantage, then that's why you'd be taking the Dodgers here.
Okay. All right. Tough to get a grip on the opening portion of the season, or is it you can see what these teams do in spring training and it translates to earlier in the season and then it becomes more wide open on the back end?
I mean, spring training to me is fairly useless until about the last week or so, or the last week and a half, when they're really putting out the team that they're intending to put on the field. I mean, the beginning of spring training, you're going to see guys playing in there in the lineup where they're never going to be, guys who are starting games who are never going to see starting during the regular season. So if you're really going to be looking into spring training stats, not looking at the stats, but more of how is the team lining up their lineups, how is the team lining up their rotations, because near that end of spring training, they're aligning everything up so that it makes sense that when they start opening day, the opening day roster is ready to go. So don't take too much into spring training until we're getting near the end.
Knowing Shohei Ohtani's dog's name and now that he's married, does that factor in at all?
He's actually married to an AEW wrestler. Did you know that?
What?
That's the
How did you find that out? Because the guy's so secret. If he won't even tell us the exact time frame that he's known his wife, he says 3 to 4 years.
I don't know if it's confirmed, but supposedly it's 4 And not only that, did you see the way he described her?
Yeah, I did. You know what? It's very nice. Very nice way of describing it. Same way I would describe my wife. Great woman. Great.
That's it? Great woman?
Yeah, you keep it simple.
Yeah.
You don't want to open up your personal life to everybody out there. And he's the most secretive player. We talked about it on Gojo and Golic
You're probably the most open person that I know.
Me?
So yes.
Yeah, I am quite an open book. You guys can literally ask me anything. I'm going to ask you something else right now, because last season in this market, you nailed it. You said Rays are going to be the first team to 10 wins.
Yes.
You said it on this show, Steve. Now you're going back to the AL East, but to a different team. The reigning division champs in Baltimore, who won 100 games last year. So tell us why they're in good shape to be the first team to 10 wins in Major League Baseball.
So I tweeted about this a couple of days ago. When I tweeted this out, this was at 30.
Oh, it was you and Gary going back and forth, and then the market shifted because you guys have that much power.
Correct. That is definitely true. So this has shifted from 30 to 1. Now it's down all the way to 13 to 1 for the Orioles to win.
What happened?
We're market movers, first and foremost. But truly, when you start to look at this schedule for the Orioles, it's really eye-opening. I mean, if we can show that graphic that we have coming up here.
There we go.
This is the schedule that the Orioles have to open up this season. This is absurd. This is like what got me onto the Rays last year. That the Rays weren't even going to see a team that finished above 500 until I think the 15th game of the year. That's what we get with the Orioles here, who are not going to see a team that finished above 500 until that series at home against the Brewers. They are starting off with the Angels at home. Then they're also hosting the Kansas City Royals, who, by the way, I do like. So there's a little bump in the road, at least for me. Then we get the Pirates, and then we get the Red Sox. Like 4 teams that are beatable, although the Royals should give them some issue, because I do like the Royals.
Okay.
And then against the Brewers, who are a team that has been a contender for so long, but not going to be the contender so far this year. Orioles are also playing at home. They were very, very good at home last year, had a .604 winning percentage at home. If you look at this Orioles lineup and how it's constructed, this is essentially the same exact team that you saw last year coming to this year. The only guys that they really lost were Kyle Gibson, Aaron Hicks, and Adam Frazier. Not big losses. There's nothing really lost that they lost here, but then they added Corbin Burns. They added Craig Kimbrell, who, I could go on about Craig Kimbrell.
Oh my God.
Don't love the addition
at all. Everybody heart attacks here in Boston.
Oh my God.
Jules booing off camera.
Jules booing off air. I will allow it because that's what happens.
Yeah, we like a live studio audience.
Right. But that is you have a frontline starter joining guys like Kyle Bradish, who is going to be in later in the season as a UCL sprain, but joins Grayson Rodriguez at the top of that rotation there. We have Jackson Holliday coming up, their number 1 prospect, should be in that lineup to start the year with Henderson, Rutschman, Santander, and then we're going to see Colton Cowser, Heston Kjerstad. Like, this is going to be a dynamic lineup, a dynamic rotation. That schedule, I cannot get over how easy that schedule is going to be. For 30-1 odds, that was just absurd. I think it's priced much better now, obviously, at 13-1, but there was no way that the Orioles should have been in the same company as teams like the Cardinals to win the first 10 games of the season.
Should the Orioles be in the same conversation as the Diamondbacks, who are right behind Baltimore here on the odds board on DK Sportsbook in the race to 10 regular season wins, Steve? Because we're talking fresh off getting smoked in the World Series.
Yep.
How does their early schedule shake out? This was a team with a negative run differential last year.
Right, but they really did address those issues in the offseason. I really think that this is going to be a better Diamondbacks team than we saw last year, which is hard to think about because they were such a good team last year. They needed pitching, they needed power, and they addressed both of those situations here. But again, you look at this lineup. Now, this doesn't look like such a cakewalk as we just saw with the Orioles, but here is the key for me. They're going to see the Colorado Rockies in 7 of the first 16 games that they're going to play. The Rockies, if you thought they were bad last year, they're going to be even worse this year. They made some additions to this team, bringing on like Cal Quantrill for their rotation. This team is going to be abysmal. Like, this is a team that I feel like could have the least amount of wins in all of Major League Baseball. So that means they're going to have less wins than like the Orioles and the Nationals. Like, I think the Rockies are literally going to be that bad. But they brought in Eduardo Rodriguez. He's going to be the number 3 starter in this rotation. Love that move for them. They traded for Eugenio Suarez from the Mariners. They have Jock Peterson. Really addresses the power from both sides of the place.
Gurriel Jr. back too?
Correct. They brought Gurriel Jr. back as well. But just a power from both sides of the plate there with Suarez and Jock Peterson. Those guys combined for 37 home runs last year. And like I said, just seeing the Rockies 7 times in the first 16 games. Now, there are some tough games sandwiched in between. They're going to see the Braves and they're going to see the Yankees. But I'm down on the Yankees more than I think the public is overall. Like, the Yankees are expected to win the division.
Juan Soto
I'm not seeing it. Look, Juan Soto is a major addition. Like, if you get Juan Soto, that has a ripple effect throughout the whole lineup. But that's really the only big addition they made in that lineup. That team was 25th in runs scored last year. They're not going to fix all that because of one guy in that lineup in Juan Soto. There's still an abundance of guys who are struggling, getting older, like LeMahieu's at the top of that lineup, getting older. So I just think that if you're not taking the Orioles, if you want to go for a little bit of a longer shot here, I think the Diamondbacks could be a team that you could look at.
And with Juan Soto, too, the conversation isn't even necessarily what he's going to do this season. The conversation is already like, where's he going after this year? Because right now he's only on this 1-year deal. And by the way, he is a client of Scott Boras. So we'll talk with Mr. Eric Hosmer is going to join us live on this show coming up 9:30. He's out in Arizona. He's gathering interviews for his new podcast at spring training. Very quickly here, any team near the top of this board you would fade? I know you're fading the Rockies at plus 15,000 to be the first team to 10 wins. Anyone near the top of the board, though?
Yeah, when it comes to the first 10 wins here, a team that I would be fading here, I think it would be the Padres at plus 750. Like, this is a team that I think is going to be a contender, but they did lose some really key pieces there. The rotation's going to have a lot of questions. The lineup is fine. Obviously, you got Tatis, you got Bogarts, you got Machado. We're still up there, but at plus 750 for the Padres, especially when you consider some of the teams I laid out here, doesn't make a lot of sense here at plus 750.
All right, let's go unload the groceries in our vehicles. We'll return to the MLB market coming up later in the show. We're going to poke over to head-to-head regular season wins, but first, LeBron, 9 points away from history, from 40,000 points. And yeah, you can bet on how he will hit that mark tonight against Denver. We're hitting the hardwood next. Welcome back to the Sweat, everybody, where it is now time for a little NBA shoot-around. There's no bigger NBA fan in this studio currently than Julian Edlow, so we have brought him back to help us navigate tonight's slate. Before we do that, congrats on your Celtics last night, not giving it up to the Mavericks.
Thank you. I was more excited that they scored more than 63.5 points in the first half. That's a different
There he is. You know who's not excited right now? How about fans of Russell Westbrook and the Clippers here? He breaks his hand. Scotty Barnes breaks his hand last night. A lot of hand injuries on a Friday night. How do these injuries impact both races? And I know, Toronto's not great, but like even talking to producer Drew before the show, like they could be out playing the role of spoiler here. But I'm assuming the Westbrook injury is going to have a bigger impact.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on timeline. Like with Scotty Barnes, we have a month and a half-ish left in the regular season here. Are they just going to put Barnes on the shelf and look to improve their draft stock, which, given the trades they've made this year, getting rid of OG to the Knicks, getting rid of Siakam to the Pacers, would indicate that they're going in that direction. Not the strongest draft coming up when it comes to top-heavy studs, but some good role players coming in this NBA draft. So really, Toronto's decision comes down to, is it worth bringing him back at any point in time, or do they just put him on the shelf? Clippers, different decision.
Yeah.
But, Westbrook's coming off the bench for them. They can survive with Paul George back in the mix, Kawhi there, Harden running the show. Like, they can survive without Russell Westbrook, no problem. So the focus for them should be getting him back in the regular season and letting him kind of, it's a hand injury, so he's going to be able to keep his wind, in theory. He just needs to have his hand healthy enough to play, and he's, a high-flying, above-the-rim aggressive player. You want to make sure that hand's going to be able to take contact on the rim, the backboard, and whatnot. But, I'm not as worried about that. I think they'll be able to work him back in just fine, and he'll still be that explosive player off the bench for their playoff run.
Currently, the Clippers have the second-best odds to win the Western Conference at plus 250. The team ahead of them, slightly, plus 240, that would be the Denver Nuggets. And the Denver Nuggets will be visiting the LA Lakers this evening. It's a game that many people around the planet will have their eyes on because LeBron James is 9 points away from hitting 40,000 freaking career points here. Now, this is important right now to mention to everybody that a good idea is always to kind of keep an eye on the DK Sportsbook and how the odds fluctuate, because the other night you could have still received plus money on LeBron scoring that 40,000 point tonight. I believe that is no longer the case. That market is down. But you can bet on the DK Sportsbook right now how he will do it. 2-point field goal, 3-point field goal, free throw right now, Jules. What would you recommend to our viewers do with said options?
I'll lay the minus 160. I think that is
for a 2-point field goal to be when he scores his 40,000.
For a 2-point field goal. That's how he passed Kareem, with a 2-point field goal to become the NBA's all-time leading scorer.
That was during Super Bowl week last year.
I just think that, pricing-wise, I do think this price is a little off. You look at LeBron, about 20% of his field goals are coming from three, a little bit more than that, but we're looking at like 75 to 80% of his field goals being 2-point field goal makes. And then he's making a shade under 4 free throws per game. And you imagine this would be early in the game. I think if you remember that OKC game that he surpassed Kareem, he kind of made a goal to go after it. So I see him kind of, when he has the ball in his hands, it's early in the game because he only needs 9 points, saying let's get this out of the way and doing what he does best and just kind of putting his head down and going to the rim. Yes, that could lead to a foul and the free throw route, but I will go with the 2-point field goal just because I think that should be a little bit more overwhelming of a favorite just from a numbers standpoint.
Okay, he was pretty hot in that fourth quarter the other night against the Clippers when he outscored the Clippers just by himself alone. I think he was firing away from three. I think he had 4 or 5 threes like in that fourth quarter too, but we know he's very streaky from beyond the arc, and a majority of his buckets do come from inside the arc.
Yeah, I'll just take that and translate that right into why I kind of like the Nuggets in this game.
Take it away.
First of all, you remember the LeBron surpassing Kareem game. Well, they got run out of the building in the fourth quarter by the Thunder. Before the Thunder were as good as the Thunder are now, the air kind of got let out of that building. It was all about LeBron, and people forgot, you got to play the Thunder, and the Thunder stepped up and won that game. Now you have Denver coming in, who's really good. I'm pretty surprised this game was a pick. I was wondering how many Denver was going to be favored by in this game. So I like the narrative of kind of fading the Lakers on a big night for LeBron historically. And then I like that the Lakers are kind of coming off of a high of highs. That fourth quarter with LeBron going off against the Clippers. Now let's turn around and go the other way and fade them. So one of the best teams in the NBA, a team that handled them in a sweep last year. I know, a little bit of Lakers revenge is probably on their mind, but Denver's just better. Jokic is a mismatch. If you give me Denver as a pick against most teams, I'm going to wind up taking.
Don't you think, though, if he gets this record out of the way early on in the game, they can turn the page and then kind of get back to business as usual?
So it is a little bit more. That's not a bad point. I'm surprised you made a decent point
because mark the tape, dude.
In the OKC game, he needed like 30 something to get there. So he's working his way there for the game. It was a distraction for the game, and then they ran out of gas late. This one's going to be a first, maybe second quarter. He gets there, and then you can kind of reset at halftime and be more focused in this game. So I'll admit it's not quite as much of a distraction probably as the OKC one is, but I'll still take that narrative. It suits my agenda to make that point. So I'm always going to suit my own agenda and say that I like going against the Lakers in this spot.
I've got another great point, another fact for you.
I think you're all out of great points for this segment.
Nuggets Lakers tonight. It's prime time, ABC 8:30, and it's one of 5 games on today's NBA.
That's just a fact. That's not a point.
But I mean, it's a good point to make a good fact. Anywho, the first game of the day is Hawks at the Nets at 3 o'clock. You told me earlier you like the Hawks. Now, yesterday, or earlier this week,
2 days ago,
the Hawks let us down, big man. The Hawks let us down big time. We were going money line on them, but you're going back to them tonight. Is it on the money line? What do you want to do?
The game's essentially a pick, so yeah, we'll go Hawks money line here. These are those spots where when two teams play each other 2 games in a row, you look to the team that lost the first one, and you back them in the second game. I liked the Hawks in the first one to begin with. I think the Nets are playing bad basketball right now. Atlanta, with Trae Young out, has been improved. DeJounte Murray gets to run the show. They have other capable scorers. They're better defensively. So I like that. And then, the classic example, you saw the Pelicans get smoked by the Pacers on Wednesday night. They absolutely dismantled Indy last night. That was one of my plays on the Pelicans last night. Difference in that one, Wednesday was in Indy. Friday was in New Orleans. These games are both in Brooklyn, so it's not like Atlanta gets to come back with home court here. But I'm fine with that. I think that, after getting their butts whooped by the Nets, Atlanta's going to come back, show a little something here, win this game.
All right. And congrats on going 2-0 in the NBA last night. That because I didn't tail your bets?
Yeah, you've been an absolute...
He keeps saying now that I'm bad luck for him.
You've been an absolute mush. Every time you text me and ask me for a bet, it loses. When you say, what's your favorite bet, and I give you one, it loses and the rest win. You're that guy. You're that friend that when the phone vibrates and it's like, dude, give me a bet, bro. I'm like, oh, this guy's the worst.
Yeah, so what you're telling me is you're not superstitious. You're just a little stitious.
I'm not superstitious at all. I'm just you don't take my bets.
You're my best friend, and I love you. The Heat are also on tonight's slate, and they've lost 7 in a row at the end of January, but they're 9-3 now since January 31st. So a pretty good month of February now that we're inside March here. When you look at Heat futures making the playoffs, and then you had Jimmy Butler saying yesterday, I'm just built different in the playoffs. Playoff Jimmy, yet he doesn't have any rings here. What would your approach be to betting the Heat right now moving forward?
Probably just bet him in a futures market to win the East or win it all. Not that I think that's going to happen, but the Heat are almost like that strategy that I take in March Madness. Like St. Mary's, for example, is a team that I like. They could make a run. I don't think they're actually going to win it all, but I have a ticket on them to win it all because if they do get to the Sweet 16, the Elite 8, I have them at 75-1 or something. I can afford to bet money line no matter what it is on the other side. The Heat are the only team in the NBA that, everybody else, is priced for how good they are. If you're pricing Miami on what they've done, you're underestimating them because we know that they turn it up in the postseason. they're not fooling me again. We've seen it back-to-back years. They have been in Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals against the Celtics, who are widely regarded as the best team in the NBA.
Why are they?
They won one, they lost one.
What is it about them when it comes to the postseason? They seem to hit this different.
Yeah.
And also, remember, they were without Tyler Hero for a lot of last postseason.
Yep, and I think that kind of benefited them, to be honest. It got Caleb Martin and Strus going. But that aside, like, Miami's going to show up in the postseason, so you probably just get a future on them, and then you can go against them. What I'm afraid of is, like, well, if I'm Boston, what if it's Boston in the first round? What if it's like a 1-8?
Okay.
I think that the Celtics bounce back and win pretty handily this year. But if you get a Milwaukee, a Cleveland, a Knicks, like, they can win a series or two, and then there you are with a massive plus price on Miami. You can afford to take a Celtics -500, 600 in a series because of the payout that you're getting.
Heat inside Boston's head. They're watching Netflix on the Wi-Fi. Plus 1,100 to win the East. Miami is right now. All right, trade deadline's come and gone in the NBA. NHL trade deadline 6 days away. Which team needs to be the biggest buyer? Plus, we're breaking down some meaty matchups on tonight's slate in 240 seconds. folks, it's time to do that thing you like. All of you hockey fans and fans of other sports, we're going to put this show on ice. Jeff Ulrich of DraftKings Network, Pete Jensen of NHL.com here for some opening face-off. Damn good to have you guys here on a beautiful Saturday morning. So at this time next week, Jeff, the NHL trade deadline will be a thing of the past. So we're talking Friday, March 8th. Which teams should be the biggest buyer right now? You got one?
I mean, it's the Edmonton Oilers. It really is. I mean, I hate to keep bringing them up, and maybe it's a homer pick by me, but I mean, this team has shown that they can be dominant. They can be the most dominant team in the West. They can stand up to Colorado, and there's just really no reason for this team not to be going all in right now. That includes getting a goalie. That probably includes getting another forward to just give them a little bit more scoring depth so they can hold up better to teams like Colorado. I think that the Oilers' biggest need, though, is in net. They have to have a secondary option. They can't go through what they did with Stuart Skinner, who's been very, very good in obviously like the second and third quarters of the season, but still has these moments where, lets in a couple bad goals, goes through bad stretches. I think the Oilers need to be huge buyers. I also think that like the Boston Bruins are in a little bit of trouble right now. They don't have much cap room to work with. And I think the Carolina Hurricanes are in a similar spot to the Oilers. They need to go all in as well. Maybe not in net, but they need some scoring up front. I think the Carolina Hurricanes, they got to make a splash with some kind of forward. This team is just there all the time. And, they need one more body up front.
Yeah, Jeff, Oilers too. Your Oilers, our Oilers, $2.4 million in deadline cap space too. So they have the assets and the financial flexibility to do something. Pete, who do you think needs to go out there and bolster that roster?
I think New Jersey. I think someone out there should make a deal with the Devils here. It's going to be fun to watch New Jersey after the trade deadline if they either address their defense, which is thin right now. Rookies Luke Hughes and Simone Nemec are filling in admirably, but it's not enough right now with Dougie Hamilton not playing since like November or something like that. And then the goaltending has been really shaky. They've gotten a couple of decent stretches from some young kids like Nico Dawes, but again, it's not good enough. You either have to jump in to the pool and get in on the mix with a guy like Jacob Markstrom. I know they're trying to make that deal happen based on reports. And I also think even a guy like Elvis Merzlikins would be an upgrade over what they have. They have to dangle Alexander Holtz, one of their top prospects. The forward group is deep. And if New Jersey makes a deal and sneaks into the playoffs, they could be dangerous. Nobody would want to play that team.
Jeff, you just mentioned how the Bruins could be in a little bit of trouble here. Don't be fooled by their league best 84 points, people, because third period collapses have continued to haunt this team, Jeff. They tried giving another one away late Thursday night against Vegas, 5-11 record in overtime. They've lost that solo lead in the Atlantic. How fatal could these late game struggles become for them? Playoff time and maybe also tonight against the Islanders here.
Yeah, I mean, the Bruins, you hit it on the head. Like the Bruins point total, I think just is like hiding a lot of problems with this team. And it's really just one problem. They don't have Patrice Bergeron, at least in my opinion. I mean, this is just a team when Bergeron was on it, when Bergeron was on the ice late in the games, these things just didn't happen. The Bruins didn't give away, last year, any games like this. Their goaltenders also ran a little bit hotter, so perhaps a little bit of regression there. Obviously, Linus Ullmark, not really in the Vezina Trophy consideration this year. I think that's a bit of a problem, but I really do think, as I mentioned at the trade deadline in our last section, like I think this is a team that needs to you can't go out and replace Patrice Bergeron, but you can certainly add to that depth a little bit. Maybe ask Pavel Zacha to do a little bit less. I think that the Bruins are a team that need to be doing something. They don't have much space to do it, but they're just not a team I have much confidence in going into the playoffs. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe they're going to be under the radar this year, but I think that this is a problem that's going to unfortunately hurt them when they get to the postseason as well.
Yeah, some rumors of Ullmark being on the trade block too. Pete, how much confidence do you have in the Bruins right now?
It's a concern, no doubt, but I like the fact that this team is going into the playoffs loose, less expectations, chance to avenge what happened last year in the first round against Florida. And everybody's talking about Florida over them and Carolina and even the Rangers, who have won, 11 of 12. So a little bit under the radar, and they still are dangerous, I think, with that goalie tandem. To me, I'll focus on the positives here. Charlie Coyle this year, third on the Bruins in goals, third in points. Nobody really saw that type of elevated production coming. So major props to him. And then even a guy like Morgan Geekie, 30 points this season and had a hat trick yesterday to help them win that game, and also reached a career high in points last year. So they're getting that by committee approach where everybody's stepping up to try to keep this ship sailing in the right direction.
Yeah, Pete, I'm glad you brought up Florida, because Florida and Detroit tonight should be a good one here, dude. Detroit just had its 6-game win streak snapped by the Islanders. Facing the Panthers smoking hot. They're 9-2-0 in their last 11 games here. How intriguing of a matchup is this, Pete? Because we're talking about a possible first-round matchup preview right now.
Right, and Detroit, I mean, let's be honest, they're looking like a playoff team this season. I know they lost to the game against the Islanders, but they've been the most consistent team of that pack that includes Tampa and New Jersey and Philly and Washington, all those types of teams, the Islanders, I'm talking over the past month or so. And it's coinciding with them being healthy, right? Patrick Kane, better than a point per game this season. I think Florida's the more stout overall team without question. But we saw it happen on the flip side last year, like 1 or 2 injuries, something breaking in the other direction. And you're facing a team that has the potential to have a hot power play with Detroit, having Kane and DeBrincat and Larkin and these guys. And also Detroit's defense is deep this year. Who would have thought that Jake Wallman and Shane Gostisbehere would have more goals than Moritz Seider, who we all loved going into this season. So I just think Detroit has sneaky depth, and they will be dangerous in any 7-game series, even against the mighty Panthers.
Yeah, what kind of chance you want to give Detroit at home tonight against the Panthers here, Jeff? Because this certainly feels like a return to the playoffs year for the Red Wings. Haven't been there since 2016.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything Pete said. Like, if I was the Panthers, I would not want to be seeing the Red Wings in the first round. That's a team where if their power play gets hot, Larkin gets hot, Kane gets hot, they could just steal games. For tonight, though, for Saturday night, I mean, I'm just going to roll with the Panthers here. The Panthers are still the better team here, like by all metrics. 5-on-5, they are just extremely dominant. I also think the Red Wings, that hot stretch was great, but this is a team where if the power play isn't going, you can get over on them. I think there's going to be quite a few goals here. I mean, I think that the Red Wings will probably still get a couple because, they'll get some power play time. But, man, this is a chance for the Panthers to potentially just, it's like big brother versus little brother here. It's like, okay, we're looking up from you. You can just stay down there and remember this come the playoffs. I think the Panthers probably put a hurt on them. They've kind of been sleepwalking, but I think this matchup with the Red Wings, which, like you said, could be a playoff matchup, probably wakes them up a little bit. I wouldn't be shocked to put up 5 or 6 goals.
Rangers and Maple Leafs, though, tonight feels like big brother versus big brother, man. These are 2 teams, Jeff, that just had win streaks of at least 7 games snapped this previous week. They both bounce back after their streaks are snapped, and they win a game. How can Toronto score the upset tonight?
This is a really interesting matchup. I mean, the Rangers obviously have the special teams advantage. It's really simple for the Maple Leafs. They have to stay out of the penalty box. They don't have a great penalty kill. The Rangers have one of the best power plays in the business, and then they have Shesterkin and net, also a small edge. But the Leafs should be able to carry this 5-on-5, and I think that being at home gives them a slight advantage. I'd be looking for a lower scoring game here. I'm not going to lie. Like I know there's a lot of star power. The Leafs have been obviously scoring a lot, Austin Matthews, but I think what the Leafs want to do is just keep this 5-on-5, get a lead, and just sit on the Rangers. I think they can do it, but they have to stay out of the penalty box. They start taking penalties, they get undisciplined, the Rangers get a lead. This probably turns into a little bit higher scoring game, and it probably favors the Rangers.
Maple Leafs a slight favorite at home, though, Pete.
And I think something to do with that is the fact that Joseph Woll, the rookie goalie, came back last game and had a nice showing with 30 saves on 32 shots faced. He hasn't played in a while since like December. So he actually quietly has the best save percentage among all rookie goalies. So that includes Ersson of the Flyers and Kochetkov of the Hurricanes. So it's a nice rookie goalie class. And Joseph Woll, when healthy, has been as good as any of those guys that I mentioned. Tyler Bertuzzi is another guy. Keep an eye on him in DFS in the props market. He's heating up in a big way. Goals in 3 straight games. Had a Hattie, 5 goals in the span, 2 on the power play, and 12 shots on goal over those 3 games. He's seeing more first power play usage, and it's not a coincidence that he's starting to bounce back here in his contract year. I had high hopes for him in the preseason. Came out flat this year. He could be a big difference maker for Toronto heading past the trade deadline if they make a move and into the postseason.
Pete, Jeff, thank you, gentlemen. That's how you do what you just did. Pete, we'll see you soon. Jeff, we'll talk more hockey and some golf with you on tomorrow's show. For now, a quick break with some college basketball betting goodness on the other side. Hang out.
Welcome back to The Sweat here on DraftKings Network and VSiN. Happy Saturday. We have a fantastic college hoops card ready to dive into. Monster games throughout the day. You see them here on the board. You see the top 10 here on the board and who they're going to face today. And for the occasion, we are bringing in Chris Thurston. You can find him on Twitter at CTBet16. His work over at Wager Talk. He has the Hustle Show podcast. He's on Sports Grid. Locally, he's on 98.5 The Sports Hub. CT, top of the morning. How we doing?
Jules, I'm doing great now. I apologize. Had a little technical difficulties, but we are good to go now. And it's a little bittersweet, right, Jules? You got 125 games every Saturday usually throughout the year. This is the last one. Next week, I think there's only 100, and then we're into the conference tournaments. But what a slate we have, and thanks for having me.
Technology, not your thing. College hoops, your thing. Let's start there with Baylor. You're a Baylor guy. We were texting yesterday. I said, what's this Baylor number you're going to open? You said maybe 3.5. We got it at 4. I was ready. I was thinking 5.5, 6, and that's kind of where we are now, and I don't mind it. I would still lay it with Baylor. I think Baylor now makes for a fantastic money line parlay piece as well. You got the revenge narrative for the last Kansas game, and you've got Kansas just eye test not playing well. And when you take McCullers off the floor, you not only lose a good player, you start tapping into some depth that just isn't there in terms of quality of players. Your take on this one?
Yeah, we're on the same page, Jules. As you said, we both got 4 here. I'm good with 6 as well, still as these Big 12, the heavyweights go. And right, like you said, it's not a surprise. This isn't the same KU team without Kevin McCullar. He's missed a lot of games recently, remains questionable here. They'll probably announce it an hour before the game. And they're really not a deep team in general anyway. So without McCullar, you and I were talking about this. They rely on the Towson transfer, the kid Timberlake. He's actually a local kid. And then Jackson as well, both who are nowhere near as good as McCullar. And it puts a lot of stress on Hunter Dickinson and the ball handler, Jawan Harris. They're just not the same team. Sorry, I slipped my mind there. Baylor now gets the rematch at home in Foster. They've been playing great hoop there. They shoot the ball at the second best rate in the country, almost 41% from deep. And these guards are absolutely elite, and they're dangerous, and they'll make you pay. Jules, right? I know they don't play great defense, but they've been getting better on D. Scott Drew has made it a point to work on the defense, but shooting that 3 ball, I like to say this, Jules, the 3 ball puts makeup on a pimply face. And that's what Baylor could do, right? They played KU really tough in Allen Fieldhouse. They covered that game. Now it's the biggest one of the year. Look for Drew and company to be ready to go. I don't think they're sleepwalking like they did in the first half versus Houston last week. I like Baylor here. I made the game 8, so 6 or less is good with me, Jules.
Bears 13-2 straight up at home, 9-6 against the spread. Kansas is just 3-6 against the spread on the road. They have lost 4 of their last 5 road games outright. Let's keep ripping through some ranked games here, and I want to jump next actually to Marquette and Creighton, because we're getting some news that Tyler Kolek, according to some, is not going to be good to go in this game. He had an oblique injury in the last game. I think a lot of us assumed he was going to be good to go. This opened 3.5, 4. It's on the move. What are we at? 5.5 here on DK Sportsbook. We got some shops as high as 6.5. Going off of the news that Kolek is going to be out. We don't have official confirmation on that. That's just the rumor out there on the Twitter sphere. Marquette on the road here against Creighton is not going to have a very good chance if Kolek winds up not playing. I mentioned Baylor as a money line parlay piece. You can put that with Creighton at right around even money if you want that one at this point. But if you tell me for sure that Kolek isn't playing, Creighton laying 5.5 at home in Omaha is a play for me.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I didn't get to the window here. I had a slight lean Marquette. If Kolek was going to go, right. I think he's the best guard in the country, Jules, right? He does it all. Now you tell me, good information that he might not go here. That changes things and changes things a lot here. And McDermott's Blue Jays, they're not scared to shoot the deep ball, right? I think his motto is, we will just outscore you. And that could be trouble today for this Marquette team. I mean, they especially without Tyler Kolek. So I think a big part of this game was going to be for the Eagles to have a shot was getting it down low to the big man, Iguodala. And now without Kolek handling the ball here, I know Marquette's pretty deep. They got a lot of guards that could play here. And Shaka has been good as a dog, but this changes things a lot for me. So it's Creighton or pass here.
Yeah, again, nothing official on Kolek there. We'll keep you posted if we get something live on the show, but that could come closer to tip, which is 2:30 Eastern. Let's go to the night game. Two big ranked night games, actually. We'll go to the earlier one first in Tuscaloosa. Big game in the SEC. Probably determines the SEC regular season winner. Tennessee at Alabama. I played Alabama on the opener on the money line here. It's up a little higher now. You can lay about 3 with them, I think, right now. 3.5 we're up to on DK Sportsbook.
3.5, yeah.
I do like Alabama here. The Vols are 6-3 straight up on the road, but they're 3-6 against the spread in those games. And if you include neutral games, they're 4-9 against the spread away from Knoxville. This is going to be their toughest test, but they're 1-3 straight up when they're priced as a dog. We know how good Alabama is at home. They're 13-1, 11-3 against the spread. They cover those numbers at home. Thoughts on this one? Huge game in the SEC in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, we might be opposite here, Jules. I know, like Rick Barnes, right? He goes out, he adds the transfer Dalton Connect from Northern Colorado, right? And Dalton Connect's kind of put Ziegler and Vescovi kind of on the back burner in Volunteers fans' eyes. He leads the team in everything: points, rebounds, shooting percentage. Right now, they've won 5 in a row. Everybody seems to think this is a year that Barnes will be playing in April. We shall see. But like you said, Bama back home, no problem scoring, leads the nation in points per game with 91.5. Comes into this game with revenge on their mind here. They shot the ball terribly in the first matchup. I think they were 4 for 20 from deep, and the guards, who are usually good, Sears and Estrada, they were very turnover prone and they didn't have good games. I don't see that happening again, Jules. Like, they're too good for that to happen, but like, the Tide, they kind of turn the ball over a lot, and the Vols have been decent on the road. You know, they have one of the best defensive efficiency ratings and offensive efficiency ratings in the country. And I know they had a heavyweight fight with Auburn recently this week, but you could say the same thing about Bama playing Kentucky and Ole Miss. Now you get 3.5 here on DK. I'm leaning towards the Vols getting the points. This is when Rick Barnes starts playing good basketball. No, he hasn't really been able to put it together with all the good guards he's had over the years and kind of make that final four run there and get to the big one. But we shall see. I kind of like Tennessee tonight. Give me the points.
All right, we got about 3.5 minutes left, and I want to make sure we get to a couple games here. So let's just spend a minute or so on the late night one in the West Coast Conference. St. Mary's undefeated in conference. They have the 1 seed in the West Coast Conference. Zags, this is a huge game for them to get into the tournament. Going on the road, revenge spot. They lost at home to St. Mary's earlier in the season. I am torn on this game, but I think that you have a side.
I don't think St. Mary's wants to lose tonight's game, but it absolutely means more to the Zags, right? They had a huge second half, much needed versus the Dons on Thursday night. And you could bet Mark Few is kind of blasting these kids and saying, you need to do it again here. He hasn't missed the tournament in his career at Gonzaga. I don't see him missing the tournament again there. I think this is a big win. He wins tonight, and no matter what happens in conference tournament, they get in. The Gales, no Jefferson, maybe without Wessels. They're a little banged up here. I think that opens up things in the paint for Zaga. So give me the points here. Hickman and EK look possessed in the second half here. I like Zaga. Give me the points.
All right, and I know you got one here in the Big 12. K-State plays at Cincy today. Tell me what you like in this one, CT.
Yeah, K-State, man, they've lost 6 straight on the road, Jules. I follow the Big 12 pretty closely, as you know. Other side, since he hasn't really been great at home, they're kind of reeling. They've lost 6 of their last 8. But K-State's D has been the reason that kept them in a lot of games this year, but they give up a lot of second chance opportunities. That's something you cannot do versus the Bearcats. They'll make you pay. Cincy's overall record at home is good, even though they dropped their last 3 at home here. I think they're going to be able to eat on the offensive boards. Even if Tyler Perry isn't hitting his miracle threes, K-State struggles to score here. So I think Cincy gets a much-needed win and cover today, so I played on the Bearcats.
There you go. All right, we got about a minute and a half left, so we'll go to another game. I'll tell you one that I like. I did bet Providence on the opener at home. This is almost a tournament game. You can make the argument. It's a bubble game. Winner likely gets in unless PC does still have UConn left on the schedule. That would be one, obviously, that would get them over the hump if they could win that game. But Villanova has been a weird team this year. They're 3-7 straight up and against the spread on the road. They have lost 5 of their last 6 road games, and Providence is one of the most difficult places to play in the country. In about 30 seconds, what do you think of this one? Noon tip in the Big East.
Yeah, I'm with you, right? Providence is right now last 4 in, and then Villanova's last 4 out. I didn't have a real opinion on this. Saw that you like Providence. I like calling it the dunk, even though it's not.
Yeah, it's still the dunk.
It's still the dunk to me and you, and then our New England Elias to us. So I'm on Providence here. I'm going to tail you and get to the window here with this one with Providence here. The Friars to get it done.
All right, there we go. And what do we got? We got 38 seconds. Real quick, Illinois, Wisconsin. This is a trap game. I'm staying away from it, but is Wisconsin going to bounce back and win this one or no?
Wisconsin's been so bad recently, and I know it is a trap game, and everybody wants to grab the points with the Illini here, but Wisconsin probably gets it done here at home.
I would tend to agree. I lean to the Badgers at home. Thank you for the time. You can follow him on Twitter at CTBets16. Chris Thurston. We're going to come back with some MLB here on The Sweat on DraftKings Network and VSiN.
We are back inside The MLB market, the betting market. I had to make sure my mic was unmuted because I mute it when I'm not on a segment to make sure I don't say anything ridiculous.
Pretty sure that's what they do in the back.
Yeah, no, just a second layer of protection. Anywho, back to the MLB market on the DraftKings Sportsbook here. Now, earlier in the show, we did first to 10 wins,
yes.
right? We grabbed our grocery carts, went shopping there. Now we're going to enter a different store, a different market. And said market is head-to-head wins here, Steve.
Yep.
Now, you told us earlier kind of what to factor in when you're approaching the first to 10 wins market. So what do you feel right now, before we get into these exact matchups, what do you feel people need to consider before placing bets?
So taking advantage of teams that are the underdog in these situations,
right.
I think it is a really strong thing that you can do here. And a lot of these teams that I'm going to be talking about are the underdogs in these head-to-head matchups here. And we'll kind of go over that as we go along in this segment here. But there are some teams that I feel like are undervalued. And one of the teams that I'm going to talk about here a lot is the Kansas City Royals. And that's my segue for you to introduce who I like first.
Love it. So now we have Giants minus 200 against the Royals plus 160 here. We're talking head-to-head regular season wins. And also late last night, Steve, if you saw the news when you woke up this morning, Chapman signing. He was expected to go with San Francisco, and he does. Yes. I think he was the favorite on most boards, yes, to land him. Why? Where else did you think he was going to go?
Unsure, to be totally honest. But I did not realize that he was a favorite for San Francisco.
Yeah, so talk to me here. You like the Royals then in this head-to-head matchup, Pukes, and they have plus 160. You say take the dogs, take the plus money.
Now, I'm putting myself in a situation where I could be losing a ton of money if the Royals don't have the season that I'm expecting them to. I've already talked about that I like them to win the AL Central. Once upon a time, they were 14-1 to win that division. It's now down to plus 850. But there are two teams that I really don't like in that division. That's the Twins and the Tigers. But we'll save that story for another day. Let's talk about them going up head-to-head with the Giants here. The Royals had an insane offseason, and it's so quiet, too. They didn't grab anybody that is like a big name, but they grabbed guys that are like, that actually could be an interesting piece when you start putting it with some of these other guys. So they improved their rotation, they improved their bullpen, and they added a little more pop to that lineup that, quite frankly, could have a decent amount of pop overall when you get like Vinny Pasquantino back, if Sal Perez can start hitting for power again, obviously Bobby Wood Jr., who they added to a long-term contract. And then you look at the Giants. They really didn't do much this offseason. Like, you just added Matt Chapman there, but they added Jung-Hoo Lee, who, we don't know how he's going to translate into Major League Baseball. They added Jorge Soler, which is a nice power addition, but a ton of strikeouts. Robbie Ray, my guy, but it's not going to be there until the second half of the season. Nothing really was done for the Giants that make them an overall better team at that point. And then the biggest knock that I have against the Giants when it comes to this head-to-head matchup, they're playing in that death division of the NL West. Like, it's the Dodgers, it's the Diamondbacks, it's the Padres. There's so many good teams in that division, whereas if you look at the AL Central, that is just so incredibly wide open. The Twins being the leaders to win that division is a travesty right now because that team stinks. I still don't understand why people are so excited about the Twins, who also have no pitching. The Giants needed to add another right-handed bat. They obviously did that with Matt Chapman there, but this is still a very left-handed hitting heavy lineup. I don't like that, especially in that division in the NL West. I still am going to beat on the drum that I think the Royals are going to surprise a lot of people here. I'll take the plus 160 for them to have more wins than the San Francisco Giants.
And the San Fran, as you mentioned, losing so many pieces on the pitching staff, but then losing the offensive pieces of Peterson, Crawford, and Haneker as well. Not a shocker here as we go to Seattle. This has been a team like you and Carabas have been riding for years. So you and Seattle versus the Twins here, head-to-head regular season wins. You already pushed, maybe take the underdog in these, but Seattle is the favorite. Slightly, minus 115 to have more regular season wins than the Twins, who have minus 105 odds here.
I mean, the Twins came into this offseason and they cut payroll, which has been the theme for a lot of teams this year, Boston Red Sox. Their biggest move this offseason for the Minnesota Twins was to bring a 37-year-old first baseman into the heart of their lineup in Carlos Santana. They lost Sonny Gray, they lost Kenta Maeda, and they traded away Jorge Polanco to the team that they are battling in this head-to-head matchup here, to the Seattle Mariners. Now, obviously, I am a Seattle guy. Like, there's nothing to take away from that. But I truly believe that the Mariners are going to be a better team than the Twins are. If you look at Seattle's rotation, I would put that rotation up against almost any rotation in Major League Baseball right now. They're coming into this season with Luis Castillo, Logan Gilbert, George Kirby, Miller, and Wu in the back end of that rotation. That is a stellar rotation that is going to do a lot of battles there in that AL West. This is a team that's going to strike out a lot. That is going to be their problem for the past couple of years now, but they have a ton of power in this lineup too as well, which is one of the things that they added in this offseason when they brought in Mitch Garver to play DH and catcher, and then also they brought back Mitch Haniger, who was with the Giants in the last season here, and Jorge Polanco, who's a decent on-base guy, probably top of the lineup guy. That's a move I like too as well. There is way too many question marks with Minnesota in a division that, quite frankly, if they just spent a little bit of money, they could absolutely own that division, but they did not. They are an average at best team. They have no pitching. They have no real power in that lineup there. Ton of question marks. I love Seattle in this spot here. I am surprised that this is as close as this is, because quite frankly, I think the Mariners are 2 times better team than the Twins are.
Doesn't Minnesota, though, have the benefit of playing in the worst division in baseball?
They do, but when you have an up-and-coming team like the Royals coming through, and to be fair, too, there's a lot of average teams in that division. The Guardians are going to be okay. The Tigers are going to be okay, but so are the Twins. And I just really feel like the Twins do not have the pitching to sustain even playing in an average division that they are in the AL Central.
I love this one here.
Yeah.
Because these are the 2 big meat eaters.
The powerhouses,
baseball. Yep. The Dodgers and the Braves. Dodgers and the Braves, the top 2 teams on the odds board in terms of winning the World Series. Top 2 in terms of winning the National League. And when we're talking head-to-head regular season wins here, Steve, Dodgers minus 120, and in Atlanta there at even money at plus 100. Now, there was news that came down about 25 minutes ago, Steve. Ronald Acuna Jr. was examined last night. They recommend an MRI. It showed irritation in the right meniscus. Plan now is to see a doctor in L.A., Braves expect him to be ready for opening day, but this is clearly not the news Braves fan or any Braves backers want to hear at this point. Does that change your opinion at all here as you like Atlanta in this head-to-head?
It doesn't, because they are saying he's expected to be ready for opening day, so I will take that and I'll say, and I'm okay with it. I do like backing the Braves in this spot here at even money to have more wins than the Dodgers, and probably nobody is going to be thinking, why would you be taking that bet? If there's one thing I can say about the Braves is that they had a pretty quiet offseason. But that is because this Braves team, this Braves regime, has done such an amazing job at locking up all their core players. They don't have to go into the free agent pool each and every year because they have their guys already for years to come. So that team that just won 104 games last year is essentially the same team you're going to see again this year.
One of, if not the complete, most completed roster.
The most complete teams in Major League Baseball. The other team obviously being the Dodgers, but we'll get to that in a second. And then the moves that the Braves made are such low-cost, high-upside moves. I don't know if you've seen what Chris Sale's looked like so far in spring training.
Yeah, dude.
Velocity is up. Swing and miss rate stuff is up. He looks like the old Chris Sale. It's very early. Who knows if he can sustain going through an entire season at this point. If they even get a smidgen of what Chris Sale used to be as probably their number 3 or number 4 starter, by the way, that is just a massive addition to a team that's so good already. They brought in Jared Kelenic, who obviously I know very well, from Seattle. Low cost, high upside guy, because this is someone who was one of the top prospects in the Mets system when they made that trade with Robbie Cano to go to the Mariners, and Kelenic was like the centerpiece of that deal. Hasn't really panned out in Seattle, but now bring him to a better park here in Atlanta. He could really flourish, and he's going to be like the number 8 guy in this rotation. Now, you can't take away what the Dodgers have done. They've had the best offseason of any team at any point in time, bringing in the guys that they do. This is what worries me about the Dodgers. They're obviously playing in a tougher division because the NL East is really just the Phillies and Braves at this point. Mets really aren't going to be contenders this year. The Dodgers are playing in a tougher division. Here's what I worry about. And this kind of goes to that basketball mentality. You can make these super teams, but do they always gel and work well together and they're able to perform on the court every night in and night out? Not necessarily. Do we maybe see that with the Dodgers. And then what happens to this Dodgers team when they start to hit a slump? Because it happens to every Major League Baseball team. How does that team respond with all these monster superstars on this team? It's something to actually really kind of consider here. So taking the Braves at even money, I like this one here because I think it's going to be close, but with the Braves playing in a much softer division, I think the Braves have a legitimate shot here.
Very, very quickly here, Steve. San Diego and Boston. There's no way you're taking Boston.
No, not without a doubt here. And this is the biggest one here at minus 135 that I'm taking here with the Padres. Yes, the Padres lost a lot, but my God, is that Boston team going to be bad?
Dude.
They're going to score 5 runs. They're going to give up 10 per game. That rotation, there's not going to be one starter. Mark the tape. There's not going to be one starter that has an ERA below 4.2 in that rotation this year.
Unless Montgomery ends up signing there.
Well, that I said as of right now.
All right.
Because he would.
And I know you're high on the Royals. A man who won a World Series with the Royals, Eric Hosmer, recently retired, will join this program live coming up next. right, folks, back here live on The Sweat on a Saturday morning. We're now World Series champion, the newest member of the baseball media. Eric Hosmer joins us now live from Arizona out in spring training. Congrats on retirement, dude. How's life treating you?
It's doing good. I get to come hang with you at 7:30 in the morning, my man. So
you look
it's
good.
Great. It's great. It's fun. It's the first year of not getting out there for spring training, putting the cleats on right around now, but I'm enjoying it. We're out here doing some different things, and it's been fun.
Yeah, you look like you got some good sleep last night. Didn't make too many bad decisions there around Scottsdale. Hey, at what point at spring training during your playing days were you like, okay, I'm over it, let's just play real games now?
See, like the whole first week of spring training is, I mean, you're doing video stuff for the Jumbotron. You're doing these live at bats where it's like a controlled environment. You're in the batting cage on the field, and it's like, can we just get this week over with, get on with the games? And even as a position player, you don't really get wound up until like 2-3 weeks in, because the pitcher's got to build up. So once you're about 2-3 weeks into spring and you're going back to back, you're playing more than 5 innings, then it's like, all right, it's time to go and get this thing going.
And right now, there's still some big names out there, Eric, who have yet to enter a camp. Snell, Montgomery, now JD Martinez. The new Boris Big Three after Bellinger and Chapman signed deals. Chapman late last night with San Francisco. Who's the best free agent still available, in your opinion?
I mean, I got to play with JD out there in Boston for, just that half of a season. And he's a South Florida guy. And I worked out with him in the offseason a bunch. I've gotten to see all his work behind the scenes, and the way he's broke down hitting now and has his whole system, and how much he's improved since the first year he's came into the league to now is unbelievable. So, if I was a team out there, to slide him into the DH role can help your team tremendously right now.
And I know Boris was your agent as well, correct?
Yep.
And he's been dubbed.
You were partying with him at my wedding too. Don't act like you don't know that. Come on, buddy.
Man, listen, I'm not sitting here trying to flex on the people, okay? Listen, he's been dubbed like baseball's most hated man, probably because teams hate him because of all the money that he's able to get his clients from said teams. But I need you to pull back the curtain for us. Can you kind of tell us what it's like being a client of his?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, he's willing to take on the heat. He's willing to take some bullets for guys publicly, and as players, I think the talk throughout the league is everybody loves Scott, and there's guys that as soon as they're about to get to free agency, always end up hiring Scott because they want the max value for themselves. And I think Scott has that information. He knows a lot about the teams, a lot about what they're doing financially and how the game's growing. So he just fights to get the player value. And, there's definitely these last couple of years been more of a fight back from, maybe ownership or something like that to really put a halt on Scott and the way he handles free agency and not having a salary cap. So I think at the end of the day, he's just willing to take on the heat for the player, and he's pro player at the end of the day. So I know the word around the clubhouse is nothing but love for Scott, and he's going to fight till the end to get you what you deserve.
Yeah, I know Chapman and Bellinger, those are short-term deals here. Your boy's not losing his fastball, is he?
No, he's and then there's some interesting contracts with the opt-out with Belly and all that type of stuff. So he just continues to adapt.
And I know he helped you land some fat cash as well. Nice contract there with the Padres, who lose Soto, another Boris guy. What are reasonable expectations for San Diego this season, Eric?
I tell you what, it's we were talking about this last night. They're in kind of a space now where it's like, all right, you go a year or two of having a lot of hype and star-studded roster over there. So understandably so you fast forward now and the Diamondbacks just went to the World Series. They had an unbelievable year last year. The Dodgers are making some big moves. So they're not really in the limelight right now, and they're kind of laying into the weeds right now. And I think they have a chance to really sneak up on guys. I think with Profar getting over there this year, Bogarts is going to be a lot more comfortable. I think he's going to burst onto the scene even more like the Boston days. I think Tatis now with an off season of just training for baseball and not worrying about anything else is going to be huge for him. I actually think he's going to win the MVP this year. That's been my prediction. I've been telling everybody. But I think they can do some good things, man, because there's not a lot of attention on them right now, and they're hungry. So I think you got to watch out for them.
I know they disappointed last year after being dubbed a super team. That's obviously the Dodgers this year. Shohei, his dog Decoy, his now faceless wife is the face of Major League Baseball. Would this season be a failure if LA does not win a World Series, Eric?
Yeah, I think they're at that level. I think Mookie said it best when I believe it was at their Fan Fest that every game against them is going to be treated like a World Series for everybody else. They're going to get everybody's A game. There's little times during the schedule where you can bring up a pitcher and kind of reset your starting rotation, and they're going to get that every single time. They're going to get the top 3 guys from every team they face. But yeah, when you're that star-studded, I think every player on that roster can honestly say they expect to be World Series champions, and anything else isn't a success for them.
Yeah, and you got Betts and Ohtani. They're 2 of the top 3 on the odds boards for MVP. There's your boy Tatis Jr. right behind them at plus 1,000. Steve Buchanan here in studio, one of our baseball analysts, is really, really big on your Royals, Eric. How high of expectations do you have for Kansas City? It seems like Bobby Witt Jr. stealing headlines with that fat contract this offseason.
Yeah, Bobby Witt, we've actually gotten to talk to him. Emerson hasn't been kind enough to shout out that I've started a podcast as well called Digging Deep on Moonball Media.
Whoa, big man. That was at the tail end.
We're 6 minutes in, and I'm waiting for this guy to hit me up now. So let's
come on. So you're ruining
it. We talked to Bobby Witt the other day, and man, this kid is an impressive dude. I mean, after every single game, he goes and journals the 3 positives, the 3 negatives. So, I mean, mentally, this guy is so far ahead of the curve. Physically talented, everybody can see that. So getting him locked down, making him that guy. Salvi is obviously one of the better catchers, I think, in the league. He's going to be a Hall of Fame guy. And they've really gone out and added some good pitching, some good pieces to the bullpen. So that division's wide open, in my opinion. And I just love to see that they're out there making additions and trying to make a move for it.
Hey, Eric, I heard you launched your own media company, Moonball Media and the Diggin' Deep podcast. So tell me right now, tell the millions of potential people who could be watching this show what they can expect from this new venture of yours.
Yeah, so Digging Deep, the podcast side of it, we're just going to dig deep, exactly like it says. We're going to get these guys. We're going to hear some of their stories. We're going to go beyond the baseball field. And, these guys all have unique paths to how they got there to the big leagues, unique, times where they've had failure in their life and how they overcame it. So get to see a different side of some of these guys, get to, just kind of dive into what they do on their process, their day-to-day is going to be fun. And then eventually we hope to venture out into different sports, different people in the business world, and just kind of talk to them all from a baseball perspective. I think a lot of this stuff with the player-driven media, there's a lot of NFL and a lot of NFL, NBA guys that have moved into this space, and you've been able to share some, or have them share some unique stories from a cool perspective. So we're trying to bring that to the baseball world.
All right, so you said you've already talked to Bobby Witt. Who else have you talked to? Who are you racking up interviews with while you're out there at spring training?
So we've gotten the first couple days, I've been throwing them up on the Instagram story. We've got Manny, we've gotten Tatis to come, we've gotten Bobby Witt, Yelich came by the other day. So we've gotten some really, really cool people in the baseball world so far. And, out here in spring training this time of year, everyone's so close. The Scottsdale area has got about 6 or 7 camps that are within like 10, 15 minutes from here. So it's a cool opportunity to be able to see everybody in one place.
Manny was one of your groomsmen, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. Manny's my man. He's the man out there in San Diego. And, we grew up together in Miami. He was a couple years younger than me. So I got to go back and see him in some high school games in the off season. And then, once he got to San Diego, we played about 3-4 years there. And Casey and Yene, his wife, are best friends. So me and Manny we're family.
All right, can you be real with us? The reason you actually retired from baseball is because of these see-through pants. You were worried about people seeing through your pants.
Oh man, it might have brought me some good attention. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah, I know what you're saying. Dude, we have Captain Crunch. We have Captain Crunch on Twitter here now making fun of the pants. No pants is better than see-through pants.
That's a tough look. And I did see Under Armour put a tweet out right after that was probably marketing gold as I'm moving into this new space. But we'll adjust. I know MLB. I trust MLB and Majestic or not Majestic. It's Nike and Fanatics now. I trust they'll make the right move and clean it up.
All right. Well, we look forward to everyone following you on Instagram. I'm sure you're going to post some pics maybe of you in the new pants. That's exciting stuff. Congrats on the new podcast, Eric. Thanks for hanging out with us, man. Look forward to having you back soon. We will wrap up the show with another healthy dose of college basketball bets with Julian after the break. All right, folks, final block here of a Saturday morning edition of The Sweat. Do not cry because it's over. Smile because it happened. And also smile because it'll happen tomorrow morning, 8 to 10 Eastern Time on DraftKings Network and VSiN. We appreciate you hanging out with us. We're going to wrap up the show with more college basketball goodness here. Now, Jules, besides tweeting out about the new form of Jason Tatum's free throw approach, you also said 20 hours ago on Twitter, another fantastic Saturday of college basketball. Big games all day. Yay. 0 holes.
I don't know if I said yay.
0 holes in the schedule. We have a 10-minute.
If you're going to quote me, do it correctly.
That was it. I know you when you tweet. And right now, you talked earlier in the program about Baylor and Kansas. Remind us, and anyone who may have missed that earlier in the show, which side you're on in this big game.
Yeah, so it is kind of a rebound spot for Kansas after an embarrassing collapse at home to BYU. They were up 12 in the second half and wound up losing their first game at home at the Phog this season. Baylor's coming off a convincing win where they went on the road and took down TCU after that bad overtime home loss, which you jinxed against Houston last Saturday because you're a mush. But I'm still going with Baylor at home here. I bet it at the opener. The number's been moving up, 5.5, 6. I'm still fine laying that or using Baylor as a moneyline parlay piece. I have them played both ways. And Jeff Goodman did just tweet out that Kevin McCullers, who I've been factoring as out, is a true game time decision. If he plays, I think he's forcing it, and I'm still assuming he's going to be out. He's been really dinged up lately, and when we see him out, we see Kansas's depth start to factor in, lack of depth, that is, start to factor in, and create some huge holes in that rotation. And as good as Harris and Dickinson are, they need a do-it-all wing, and they don't have one. And if McCullers is dinged up, I still don't think they're going to get the most out of him. So Baylor's been playing really well lately. They're 5-2 against the spread in their last 7 games. They're 13-2 at home this season, 9-6 against the spread in those games. Kansas is just 3-6 against the spread on the road. They've lost 4 of their last 5 on the road outright. Eye test for me not doing it with Kansas. Big revenge spot for Baylor's narrow loss earlier that they did cover at the Phog. I think Baylor's going to get this one pretty convincingly.
Well, here in a little more than 2 hours right up the road from our Boston studio in your home state of Rhode Island.
I'm from Massachusetts.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, you like Rhode Island.
I do.
Villanova is looking to earn the season sweep when they battle the Friars here. A key Big East Conference matchup, Saturday, high noon. How can people get an edge betting this?
I like Providence. Providence has been the side at home essentially all season. They're 14-2.
They're a terrible road team.
They're actually very good against the spread on the road. But they haven't gotten wins, losses. They're coming off getting mopped at Marquette in a revenge spot for Marquette. Marquette lost at PC earlier in the year, thus demonstrating how great Providence is at home.
Indeed.
So I do like them to improve to 15-2 at home here. Massive bubble game for both sides. Villanova is on a nice 4-1 straight up and against the spread run. Their only win during that time, Providence. That was in Philly. Now we set the stage in PC. Villanova's just 3-7 straight up and against the spread on the road this season. They've lost 5 of 6 on the road. PC was rolling. They had won 4 of 5, including a win over Creighton. Lost at Butler without one of their best players, and then they got wrecked by Marquette this week. It's a perfect bounce-back spot at home.
All right, well, speaking of Marquette, you
Yes.
wanted to highlight this Marquette-Creighton game today, which really a couple months ago, you would have seen this game on the calendar and said, wow, this is going to be one of the best games of the Big East season. But now that we finally reached this date, it seems like it's lost some of its luster. Why is that?
Well, it's still a big game, and, Creighton at home was the side that I was leaning towards laying 3.5, 4 on with that opener. The number grew. I said, I'm going to stay away from this one. But now we're getting reports that potentially Tyler Kolek, who had an oblique injury during the week in that Providence game, might miss this game. Tyler Kolek's probably the best point guard in the country, and is the engine that makes this Marquette team go. If he's going to be out, you can lay it with Creighton. You can use Creighton moneyline as that piece to put with Baylor, which I've already gone ahead and done. It would be a great spot for Creighton here. I just don't see how Marquette would keep up. You can look at a Marquette team total under, potentially, with what Kolek does for that offense. There's a lot of different ways you can go here. I went ahead and texted a couple of prominent media members around college hoops who I won't give away. Yeah, you don't fall under that category. and asked them about Kolek. Nobody could 100% confirm that he is out, but they said for the most part, looks that way, or I believe so, or things along those lines. So I'm going to operate that Kolek is out here. The line movement suggests that, and say that Creighton's going to get it done at home here.
All right, let's talk a primetime matchup with major implications both nationally and in the SEC here. Tennessee and Alabama. So on Wednesday night, both these teams pulling off some thrilling victories here, Jules. Tennessee knocking off Auburn in a top 15 matchup. Alabama went on the road and knocked off Ole Miss.
Yeah, it was a good bounce back for Bama, who got smoked at Kentucky on Saturday, gave up 1 billion points in that game. But the bigger game on Wednesday night was Tennessee's win over Auburn. That was a hard-fought game all the way to the end, a meaningful game for Tennessee at home. Now we're going to go the other way and fade them on the road. Tennessee's 6-3 straight up on the road, but against expectations, they haven't been great. 3-6 against the spread. If you want to take it to just games in general, away from Knoxville, 4-9 against the spread away from home this year for Tennessee. This is going to be one of their toughest tests of the season. They're just 1-3 when priced as an underdog. So Alabama, yeah, they had the bounce back from the Kentucky game, but this is really the game that they have circled. A Saturday night game in Tuscaloosa at home. Winner likely takes the cake for the regular season in the SEC. Alabama's been terrific at home this season. They're 13-1 straight up, but they've been getting it done. They're 11-3 against the spread. Winners of 9 in a row.
That's pretty good, Jules.
Roll Tide, roll.
And while the SEC headliner is in Tuscaloosa this weekend, Auburn, Alabama's arch rival, has a massive home game of its own against Mississippi State. What you gonna do here?
Auburn, first half. They're off that bad loss at Tennessee on Wednesday night that we just spoke about. Auburn's been terrific off a loss this season. They've been terrific at home, where they're 13-1, and Miss State's been bad on the road, 2-6 straight up and against the spread. So why are we going first half? Because Auburn has been a particularly elite first half team, especially when they are playing at home, especially when they are off a loss. So they're top 5 in the nation in terms of first half point differential, and that differential is a plus 15 margin in the first half of home games. So yes, that factors in some layups early in the season, but they've been mopping SEC competition at home in these first halves. So I'm going to lay, I think it's 5.5 in the first half at home with Auburn.
All right, how about the Zags and the Gales here, talking Gonzaga and St. Mary's. So is this a win and end scenario for the Bulldogs here? Like, wouldn't they presumably clinch an at-large bid if they can pull this off? Which won't be easy because the Gales have a remarkable 15-0 conference record.
Yeah, a ranked road win would be huge here for Gonzaga. They lost the game at home to St. Mary's earlier in conference play. CT joined me earlier in the show to talk college hoops. He leans Zags in this one. Everyone likes the Zags in this one because they have to win and it means more to them. I'm not so sure. I think St. Mary's would love to hang their hat on an undefeated season in conference, beating Gonzaga, who's dominated the conference for years, twice on the road and on their home floor. This one would be St. Mary's first half or pass for me. We saw Gonzaga play a meh first half against San Francisco the other night and then blow doors in the second half. St. Mary's, I just spoke about Auburn. St. Mary's is the second best first half team in the country. They have been generating 14.4 point per game leads at home so far this season. I think there's a little bit of reason to say that Mary's will get off to a good start here, potentially go with the Gales here. It's either going to be Gales first half or pass for me.
All right, let's wrap it up with Illinois and Wisconsin. Do you like the spot here for the Badgers, maybe to right the ship after a string of 6 losses in their last 8 games? Now, the majority of those losses also came on the road in very tight games. Wisconsin's
a tough team to trust right now. As of February 1st, they were an elite team, one of the best teams in the country. What's happened since then? The last time Wisconsin covered a game was January 26th.
Oh, that's cool.
Wisconsin's 2-5 straight up, 0-7 against the spread in February. Nobody's happier that March is here to kind of turn the calendar than the Badgers. That said, they're still 13-2 at home this season. They're short favorites over Illinois. Illinois is coming off of a big, high-pace win at home over Minnesota. They've rebounded well since that collapse of a loss that they had at Penn State earlier in the season. Bad loss to Indiana for Wisconsin. Indiana had been as bad as it gets, and they go to IU and lose. I would lean Badgers. I haven't ultimately played it. Maybe I will by tip, but I lean Wisconsin in this one. It's a good get-right spot at home.
It'll be a good Saturday at college basketball.
As I tweeted, yay, good college basketball.
That's
like
true.
Said.
All right, my man. Good stuff. Another fantastic Saturday of college basketball.
That looks official to me.
Big games all day. Yay! 0 holes in the schedule. Let's go, everybody. 0 holes here on DK Network and VSiN as well. And that 8.
Our producer Drew just informed me that they actually did edit that tweet.
Oh, I'm pretty sure that's exactly what you tweeted out. Go follow him on Twitter and discover it yourself. We're back here 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock Eastern time tomorrow morning. Steve, great to have you back. There he is. Look how excited he is. Yay. See you guys
tomorrow.